Back to the Future is not like other movies. It's special. In fact, I'd say it's a perfect movie. The movie is unlike anything else because it doesn't waste a single scene or moment. As soon as it begins, the wheels of magic start moving and every frame you see has a clear focus and reason for why it exists. There is not a single thing here that has not been planned thoroughly or does not play some sort of role in the story.
And only Dr. Brown can help him get back to the future.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear? Precisely.
Back to the future.
One of the coolest parts of this movie, aside from the story, are the visuals and its aesthetic. I mean, this movie literally almost defines an entire decade. The night shots are full of strong neon colors, purple, red and blue. You've got 80s posters, aerobics classes and Huey Lewis playing in the background, as well as judging the school bands.
Are you telling me that it's 8:25?
Precisely.
Damn. I'm late for school.
Curious thing. Don't need money, don't take fame.
In June of 1984, Huey Lewis and the News spent a week at #1 on MTV's Countdown with The Heart of Rock and Roll, and now they have gone to the top again with The Power of Love.
Power of love is a curious thing. The power of love. New York is everything they say. Where else can you do 500,000 things? They say the heart of rock and roll is still beating.
I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
These visuals are exactly what people today imagine when they think about the 80s, especially Marty's outfit in his sneakers and Walkman. It's iconic and even timeless to a certain extent. And of course, then there's the DeLorean, which is a character of its own in this movie. Before Back to the Future, the car was not popular nor was it considered good. It sold awfully and didn't drive that well either, which is something even the movie makes fun of. But goddammit did it look cool. It might be a crap car, but its design looks awesome and extremely 80s as well as futuristic, which is the main reason why it was picked to be the time machine in this movie. It simply looks like it's a secret spaceship that will fly to Mars any minute now. And it's this design coupled with the rest of the aesthetic of this movie that has been immortalized by pop culture. I mean, 90% of synthwave or 80s inspired modern art literally features the DeLorean or some kind of Back to the Future reference. Part of why that is, aside from just visually looking cool, is because Bob Gale and Robert Zemeckis tried to make the movie as timeless as possible. Sure, it's clearly an 80s movie, but it's also shot in a way that isn't reliant on the 80s. It could easily take place in 2025 and it wouldn't feel out of place. They did the same thing in Back to the Future 2, where they did their best to portray the future as down to earth and realistic as possible without trying to predict anything too crazy like you see in other futuristic movies.
Shark still looks fake.
In fact, a lot of the things they showed in the second movie, things that were just fantasy back then, are actual reality today, which is just crazy.
In our world of endless imagination, anything can happen. And those of you who wear Levi's jeans know what I'm talking about. Because anywhere our minds can go, we can follow too. Go ahead, chase a dream in Levi's jeans.
Marty McFly is extremely relatable and likable because he's not your average action hero. He's just a teenager who is filled with anxiety, hopes and dreams and is trying to make the best out of what he has, which is a shitty family but an amazing girlfriend and talent for music and skating.
For
you're good, Marty. You're really good. And this audition tape of yours is great. You've got to send it into the record company.
His family is not the worst by any means, nor are they in any way abusive, but the movie makes it clear that all of them, except Marty, are just people who failed in life and are now stuck together and have to make the best out of it. Marty himself is not a failure yet, but based on how things are going, the movie was implying that he was heading in that direction, especially when he starts mimicking his dad on how he can't handle a rejection.
What if they say, get out of here, kid, you got no future? I mean, I just don't think I can take that kind of rejection. Jesus, I'm starting to sound like my old man.
What if she said, no, I don't know if I could take that kind of a rejection?
A rejection that he got from Huey Lewis playing a Huey Lewis song.
Hold it, fellas. I'm afraid you're just too darn loud.
It's really the events of the movie that change him and give him a new perspective on life. In fact, in a way, this entire trip to the past and back was sort of like a near-death experience if you think about it. Before he traveled to 1955, he was basically failing in life and his hopes and dreams were slowly shattered. But afterwards, he became highly motivated and even decided to send his demo tape to a record company, as the envelope in his hand at the end of the movie implies.
History was made at Central High when Billy Weston stuffed the bulk with science notes, a book, his week old sneakers, a locker lock, a ping pong paddle, a puck, another puck, a radio, and a half-eaten tuna fish sandwich. Or was that his science experiment? No other three-ring binder expands like the bulk. History was made at Lincoln High when Mary Beth Hickey stuffed the bulk with math homework, a hairdryer, hot rollers, sunglasses, a compact, pistachios, Herb, Steve, Andy, and 84 letters from George. The bulk. If you want to make history, stuff it. The bulk and other fine Majestic products available at most stores.
His family is a great way for the movie to introduce us to Marty's parents and to show us their personalities as adults. His mom, Lorraine, is an alcoholic who's bitter she married George, and she has some very outdated and old school ideas on dating, which ends up being pretty ironic coming from her.
Girls chasing boys. When I was your age, I never chased a boy or called a boy or sat in a parked car with a boy.
It's a great idea. I'd love to park. Marty, I'm almost 18 years old. It's not like I've never parked before.
What?
And he can sleep in my room.
I gotta go. I gotta go. Thanks.
Gee, you smoke too?
Marty, you're beginning to sound just like my mother.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
The scene that follows when Marty meets Doc at the Twin Pines Mall parking lot might be one of the greatest character introductions ever made. Not only are we introduced to Doc Brown, who looks like a more insane version of Albert Einstein, but we are also introduced to the real star of the movie, the DeLorean.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious shit.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
We are just as confused as Marty, trying to understand what just happened. It's only after the DeLorean comes back does the movie explain how it works, and even that is done in a very simple and clear way. So many movies featuring time travel always feel the need to dump a whole load of exposition on you, explaining every single detail on how their time travel works. Back to the Future does none of that. They show us the DeLorean in action, give us some basic infos on how this movie's version of time travel works, and we're all set for the adventure. It's genius.
This readout tells you where you're going, this one tells you where you are, this one tells you where you were. You input your destination time on this keypad.
It's also amazing how a lot of minor details end up playing a massive role for Marty's trip to the past. Like if Doc hadn't told him about how he got the idea of the flux capacitor, Marty would have been in deep trouble and stuck. And it seems so insignificant when he first tells the story, like a random fact, and then it ends up playing such a vital role.
Flux capacitor.
Flux capacitor?
It's taken me almost 30 years of my entire family fortune to realize the vision of that day.
I came here in a time machine that you invented. Now I need your help to get back to the year 1985. You were standing on your toilet and you were hanging a clock and you fell and you hit your head on the sink. And that's when he came up with the idea for the flux capacitor.
How far are you going?
About 30 years.
When Marty gets to 1955 by accident after fleeing the Libyan terrorists, we get to see Hill Valley in a completely different light, and just like Marty, we are both amazed and bewildered at what's going on. The 50s seem like a completely different world where everything looks familiar, but it's still different. It's not even clear if all of this is real or maybe just a dream or some kind of vintage festival. It's only when Marty notices the still functioning clock tower does he slowly start to understand that he traveled back in time. It's amazing how this all plays out because no one really talks much here. It's all following the principle of show, don't tell, and the movie also doesn't treat the viewers as little children that need every detail to be explained. The way it shows Hill Valley and focuses on certain landmarks is explanation enough to understand everything. The same thing can be said about when Marty meets George in the diner and slowly realizes that he's sitting next to his young dad.
Hey, McFly! What do you think you're doing?
Yes.
What?
It also makes you wonder if you would have ever been friends with your parents when they were young. I mean, this entire movie's idea comes from one of the directors when he found his dad's old school yearbook and then wondered whether or not he would have gotten along with his dad. It's here where Marty also starts to interfere with the past, influencing Goldie to become mayor, and later he saves his dad from being run over by a car, which also happened to be the car of his grandparents.
And one day I'm gonna be somebody. That's right, he's gonna be mayor. Yeah, I'm mayor.
In the original timeline, Lorraine's dad hit George with the car, and Lorraine felt sorry for him and for some reason fell in love with George. But now this happened to Marty, which ends up screwing the timeline and causing him and his family to slowly be erased from existence. It's wild, and Marty clearly has an issue coping with that, especially with slowly realizing that his mom has the hots for him.
You're my mom.
My name is Lorraine. Lorraine Bates?
Yeah. Calvin, why do you keep calling me Calvin?
That is your name, isn't it? Calvin Klein? It's written all over your underwear.
Eventually, Marty and Doc find a way for him to get back to the future, and it's just hilarious how happy Doc is about being able to take part in one of the most dangerous experiments of his entire life that builds on the hope that Marty will be able to drive the DeLorean fast enough and touch the lightning pole to get back to his time. And Marty needs to touch it with the DeLorean exactly on time, within 1 second, or else he crashes into the building in front of him. More hilarious than this is that everyone here is constantly in a time rush. You know, in a movie about time travel, and when Doc's name is Emmett Brown, which if spoken backwards sounds like the word time. Simply genius.
One touch.
Sansui.
Sansui Intelligent Super Combo.
One touch.
From Quartz Lock Stereo Tuner.
One touch to fully automatic turntable.
One touch to auto reverse cassette deck.
Just one touch.
Just one touch.
The Sansui Intelligent Super Combo.
No other stereo component system gives you so much pleasure with so little effort.
He's an amazing character because you never know what wild and crazy thing he will come up with next. But I think the best part about him are his over-the-top reactions to events, which is even wilder in the second movie. According to him, every interference in time, no matter how minor, could lead to a catastrophic event such as the explosion of the entire universe, or nothing at all could happen. Either way, best not to try your luck.
Doc, what do you mean? I must see two possibilities. One, coming face to face with herself 30 years older would put her into shock and she'd simply pass out. Or two,
The encounter could create a time paradox, the result of which could cause a chain reaction that would unravel the very fabric of the space-time continuum and destroy the entire universe. Granted, that's a worst-case scenario. The destruction might in fact be very localized, limited to merely our own galaxy.
Meanwhile, Marty tries his best to get his dad and mom back together so he won't fade out of existence. Marty is a hothead and usually first gets into trouble and asks questions later, which gets him into all kinds of situations like the one here, where he has to run away from Biff and his goons after sucker punching him to help his dad.
Now, whoa, Biff, what's that?
The scene is just shot so damn well, and it makes you feel for Marty because he's trying to help George, but at the same time he can't even explain to him why he's constantly hanging out with him or pushing him so hard to get together with Lorraine. It's also here where Marty basically invents skateboarding and introduces us to the first running gag of the trilogy. Biff crashing into loads of manure. The comedy elements in this movie are reactionary rather than relying on gags. Everything happening here feels natural and it doesn't seem like the movie is even trying to be funny. It just so happens that Marty ends up in hilarious situations all the time. I love that Back to the Future does all of that without shoving it in your face. It never lingers too long on a joke or a situation. Things just happen and then the events move on. Like when Marty finally gets his dad to stand up to Biff and knock him out hard, which seems like someone simply standing up to a bully, but ends up being a life-changing experience for both George and Marty. George never stood up to someone in his entire life until he met Marty.
No, Biff. You leave her alone. All right, McFly.
Marty keeps casually interfering with time and history and even ends up inventing rock and roll towards the end of the movie, which is another thing that's just done masterfully by the writers. Early on we get to see Marty as a rock fanatic and even him auditioning for his school's dance with his band. The movie doesn't really go too deep into this and is just used to give his character a bit of a rebellious edge. But then towards the end, the fact that he's able to play guitar ends up playing an extremely crucial role, to the point of it even being life-saving for him. This just gives me goosebumps every time because this is masterclass level of writing. And when Marty then ends up playing rock and roll and Johnny B. Good while also hitting that guitar like a lot of famous 70s and 80s rock musicians,
Watch me for the changes and try and keep up, okay?
you just can't help but get your mind blown and be amazed. Of course he ends up going overboard and completely wild on the guitar, but as someone who plays guitar too, I would lie if I said that I wouldn't do the exact same thing in his shoes. And at least now we all know where Chuck Berry got the inspiration for his most iconic song.
Your cousin, Marvin Berry? You know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this!
The last half of the movie might be one of the best parts in my opinion. When Marty gets back to Doc with barely enough time left, the entire set is drenched in neon, purples and blues, and this is where its 80s DNA shines through. Even though this part still takes place in the 50s, the scene looks exactly how modern pop culture imagines the 80s to look like. And of course, Murphy's Law kicks in and everything that can go wrong goes wrong. Doc's cables get loose, the DeLorean stops working, and the tension is at an all-time high.
Here we go. This time, come on. Come on.
I have seen this movie 1,000 times at this point. For some reason, I rewatch it every year around Christmas or New Year's. It has turned into a personal tradition, and the movie still feels fresh to me. When the tension here is high, I keep being glued to the screen, hoping for the DeLorean to get back to the future, despite knowing the outcome.
Cut the post-holiday blues loose with Footloose. Saturday at 8, 7 Central and Mountain.
Back to the Future is one of those movies that is timeless and will simply never get old. The jokes work no matter what decade you're watching it in, and the plot is filled with tons of details, references, and Easter eggs. It's rightfully seen as one of the greatest movies ever made, and in my opinion, it is the greatest movie ever made, or at the very least, the greatest sci-fi time-traveling movie. Everything here has been thought through to the fullest, and there's nothing out of place or redundant taking away screen time. Even more so, the sequels are a rare case where both the second and third movie managed to keep the quality of the first one and be just as good. I would even consider Back to the Future 2 to be slightly better than the first one.
Hey, Doc, we better back up. We don't have enough road to get up to 88. Road? Well, we're going. We don't need road.